Well, I get asked this question often, and it's about how often should managers meet with their direct reports? Now, effective communication is critical for successful management, and regular meetings between managers and their direct reports are a vital part of this process. But actually having the right balance between providing guidance and avoiding that micromanagement area is very important, and it's essential. So in today's episode, we'll explore the best practices and considerations to help managers determine the best frequency for these meetings. Let's discuss.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos.
Hey listeners, welcome to the Ask Denis episode. This is a freestyle episode where I am asked a question by our listeners, or I share my thoughts and experiences and insights from working with many leaders around the globe. Well, as we're in a fast-paced, ever-evolving world of business, and one of the most crucial aspects of effective management is communication. And at the heart of this lies the regular meetings between managers and their direct report. But actually determining the best frequency for these meetings is, well, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's about finding that sweet spot that balances the oversight and autonomy that you give your direct reports. So today, I want to dive into the best practices and considerations that can help guide you as a leader or as a manager in making this important decision. You see, the power of regular meetings can do several things. Number one, it can help you build strong relationships. If you're having frequent interactions and starting to build trust and rapport with your team, that is important. In particular, I'm thinking about new members to the team or a newly formed team as well, because the meetings are going to be the foundation of a strong working relationship. Number two, it's about offering timely support. So if you do regular check-ins, it allows you as a manager to provide that timely support, address some issues or roadblocks that may arise or come in front of you, but also it allows you to give constructive feedback. This really is like a proactive approach that prevents small problems from becoming major obstacles. Number three in this area is around helping maintain accountability. So consistent meetings can reinforce accountability. So when employees know that they've got a regular discussion with you as their manager, they're more than likely going to stay on track with the tasks and the deadlines. And the fourth and final area around this part of our power, the power of regular meetings, is about fostering career growth. So meetings are a great opportunity, or the one-on-ones are actually great opportunities for you as a manager to mentor and help your direct reports. But it's also about discussing career aspirations and then identifying development opportunities. It is really a powerful way to motivate, inspire, and retain talent within your organization. And the other area I want to talk about is the factors that can influence the meeting frequency. So number one could be it's the nature of the work that you're doing, because it could be quite complex, or there is the pace of work is really actually starting to significantly impact meeting frequencies. And so the fast-paced environment that we work in, that we live in, or projects with some tight deadlines might mean that you actually need to have frequent check-ins. In other words, maybe more than normal. Number two is the experience level of employees. So less experienced employees might need to have more frequent meetings to give them that guidance and support, as I was talking about earlier. But in contrast, if you think about seasoned employees, they may require fewer meetings. So you might need to do a periodic update every maybe 2 or 3 weeks, depending on the seasoned individual. The third area is around the team size, because for some of you, you may actually have quite a few direct reports. So the smaller the number of direct reports, probably going to be a lot easier. But the larger team might require a different approach. And so for me, as an example, when I had like 13 or 15 or 17 direct reports, what I tended to do was to meet with them every 2 weeks, and I would meet with them one group in 1 week and then the other group in the next week. So I split it over 2 weeks. So not everyone was in 1 week. And that actually helped me keep people informed and aligned with what was going on. Number 4 around this area of the factors that influence meeting frequency is the organizational culture. And it plays a role because, you see, companies can prioritize collaboration and communication, but that might often also mean frequent interactions. And so, depending on what's going on in the culture, the organization may actually have what we call stand-ups every morning. And so we may have a 10-minute, 15-minute stand-up, talk about what's happening today, give them a brief update, and let's get going. But that doesn't replace one-on-one meetings with the direct reports. So we need to remember that too. So here are some recommended meeting cadences. However, I'm going to put a caveat around this, right? Because as I said before, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of solution. So some recommended meeting cadences could be, number 1, that you are doing weekly one-on-ones. Now, weekly one-on-ones can actually typically last between 30 minutes to an hour, but it actually gives you that opportunity to discuss maybe ongoing projects, any challenges, and development needs. Number 2 could be bi-weekly meetings. So for teams with more experienced members or in a less dynamic work environment, you could probably meet bi-weekly. In other words, depending where you are in the world, every 2 weeks or every bi-weekly or every fortnight, depending on where you are in the world. And not everyone understands what I mean by fortnight. So this kind of schedule allows enough time for significant progress to happen while maintaining some regular touch points as well. The third area is around monthly check-ins. So in some cases, meeting every month might be sufficient, especially for really senior or people who have got a lot of autonomy. They might need less and less time. So in other words, they can meet every month. And these tend to focus on high-level progress, strategic alignment, and professional development. The other thing I was going to say to you as well is around career development. I talked about that earlier on. If you are thinking about career development and where people want to go in their careers, but also about development opportunities, I would review that every 2 months, actually. I would review that just to see how things are going. But every 6 weeks, we would check into the career side of things, the aspirations. But the development opportunity, I would do that every 2 months, sometimes every 3 months, depending on who the person is. The other area around recommended meeting cadences is, what about ad hoc meetings? So these are things that may be beyond your scheduled meetings, and they could be done, and I encourage you to do this as well, because there might be some immediate issues that arise. So if there's an immediate issue, don't wait for your next one-on-one. Get it sorted, get in there, talk to your manager, and have an ad hoc meeting whenever you need to do that. So some best practices for effective meetings. Well, here we go. Number 1, set a clear agenda. Having a clear agenda is important, but it also makes sure you are productive with the use of time that you have together. It really starts to help to keep the conversations focused and relevant. How many times have you been into a meeting and it's a 1-hour meeting? At the 15-minute mark, people realize they've only got 10 minutes to go. Hurry up, let's get in. And we get in there and it's really quite focused. So should we have actually had just a 10-minute meeting? Maybe not, because there's certain details that we do need to discuss beforehand. But what I'm going to say to you is make sure there is a clear agenda before you go to that meeting. Number 2 is encourage open communication. So create a safe environment. And what I mean by that, where I mean that by in the sense that employees are feeling comfortable to share their thoughts and concerns, but also that creates or requires active listening and empathy as well. But I've also got to say something here too, that look out for people who are not speaking up. Ask them their thoughts. There are people who are what I call you've got the introverts or the thinkers, the analytical people who are probably trying to get a word in. So I would say to you, as you facilitate these meetings, make sure you include them as well. Number 3 is follow up. How many times have you gone from meeting to meeting? So in other words, we have a meeting today, in 2 weeks' time we have another meeting, and the people haven't actually gone on and done the action items. So the next step should be make sure you clearly define what are the action items and that you follow up in subsequent meetings to ensure that there is accountability, but we've also got progress happening against those action items. Number 4 is adapt and adjust. So be open to feedback, but also be willing to adjust the frequency or the structure of the meetings based on the needs of the team or the individual member. So don't be so rigid about it. So have some structure, but I always have that saying, with structure comes flexibility. And so if you have that structure and you're able to adapt and adjust, that's a good thing for you to do as well. Okay, so finding the right frequency for meetings between you as the manager and your direct reports is really going to be quite dynamic, if I can put it that way. It can change, but as I said before, there's no one size that fits all. In other words, with the structure, be flexible with it, but do what makes sense for you and your direct reports. Even though doing a weekly one-on-one, it's quite a solid starting point. But I said before, that flexibility is going to be very important for you to think about. But if you foster regular, meaningful communications, that's going to actually help. If you do regular, meaningful communication and meetings, it's really going to help as well. Because you see, you can support your teams to help and drive engagement, keep the productivity going, and professional growth. Don't do meetings for meetings' sake. Make sure that you are actually targeted and you actually know what you're wanting to get out of meetings. Because the essence is of being an impactful leader in today's business is very important for you to know what kind of meetings you need, how often you need to be meeting, and what you need to be covering off in those meetings. Well, my call to action to you today is that if you look in the show notes, there is a link there for you. It is for you to download the executive guide, 10 ways to lead in today's world. What I'd love you to do as part of the call to action is actually, go to the link, fill in your details, then actually download. I'll send you an email straight away, which has actually got the guide in there. Start to read it, and it's got the 10 main themes or the 10 ways and also 42 strategic insights in that actual document. But I also want you to understand where you are today with each of those 10 different themes and those strategic insights. Where do you sit today with them? Are you doing them? Tick, done. Or do I need to improve on those areas? Or do I need to start doing some of these things as well? Hey, listeners, that's it for this episode. It's always a pleasure being with you. Thanks for joining me on the Leadership is Changing podcast. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.